All right, we are live. So I have got Storm Miller here. No one knows where Carrie's at, so we'll see. Maybe he's slacking today.
You know what? It's going to be one of two things. He's either on the Peloton, finishing a ride right now, or he rolled over this morning, saw another gloomy morning here in the Northeast, and said, I'm going to sleep a little while longer.
Or maybe
one or the other.
Maybe Michelle had her baby.
That could be the case. I didn't even think about that because she's doing what, like a week, week and a half.
I think like the 13th of November. Well, yeah, I mean like 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks. 2 weeks. So that could be why we have not heard from Mr. Tober this morning.
Oh. All right, well, I'm going to start us on this video. Something that we talk about a lot within our organization is extreme ownership. But let me, it's like a 2-minute video. Pull this baby up.
Leadership is the most important thing on the battlefield, and nothing else even comes close. Recognizing that it's not about you, it's about the mission, and we got to work together as a team to get that mission done. They either know what it is that they're supposed to be doing, or they don't. If we're just doing our own thing, we're not mutually supporting one another, we get killed. There are two things at the end of a conflict. What do you get? You get a winner and a loser. A really good leader, even when they have a great track record, even when they have a great reputation, even when they have an infinite amount of really good experience, they still check themselves every single day and stay humble. This is the real deal. It didn't matter what I did, I was probably going to get shot. You're getting pulled into things and you're getting sucked into something. You're in the middle of a fight. Oh, by the way, you're running out of gas. You should be aware of that. You know what? I need to detach right now. Am I giving them simple, clear, concise directions? How do you figure that out? Simple. And I'm here to talk to you guys about understanding the why, believing in the mission. Somebody tells you that everything is a priority, you still have to prioritize next week. You have to be able to see the bigger picture and say, what's the long-term good? Take ownership of your life and lead.
Got me fired up.
What do you think about that?
As leaders, we are responsible for everything.
So I love it. And I know that you guys every morning have created kind of a teaching, right? Kind of a class and a conversation around extreme ownership. So you want to talk a little bit more about kind of how that came about and what you guys touch on and what people are finding valuable in your morning meetings?
Yeah, so like this, you'll like one of the things we discussed this morning. So typically what we'll do is we'll do like a review of the week, right? So so far this week, we talked about as leaders, as owners, as facility leaders, as sales leaders, as fathers, as whoever you are, what we tolerate is essentially the level in which our team's going to perform, right? So bringing it back into our industry, if we tolerate our team, if the target or the mission every day is 40 outbound calls and we tolerate 20, well, guess what performance we're going to get? 20 per day, right? And then the other thing we talked about is essentially we are the lid to, I'm going to share this on my personal thing, but we are the lid to our team's progress. So essentially what that means is our team is never going to perform higher than the standard and what we hold true to. And so how we bring that real life is, if we're demanding or expecting our team members to get in 8 workouts a week as 8 ABT workouts in, but we're only getting in 4, then we can't have that expectation.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think there's this myth out there that people naturally rise to the level of their potential, and it's not true at all. It's the wrong way to think about it. You tend to sink to the level at which your habits reside, right? So if you're used to going to the gym 4 days a week, and you think that naturally you're just going to get there and up that to 5 or 6 times a week and change your life, change your appearance, change your aesthetics, it's not going to happen, right? You're going to do what feels natural to you. And if 4 feels natural, that's what you're going to be. You have to push to get to 5 to 6.
Yeah. You need accountability. Right. And it's funny, the story I shared I was out on my morning run this morning and I was I was thinking, it just came to me. I was like, man, I remember. So the Dodgers won the World Series last night. In case anyone watching this didn't know,
they did on some questionable coaching calls.
Yeah. We right when COVID hit, so it was like March 1st, right before all that, they moved back. So the NBA essentially canceled, and then they pushed spring training back. But it was like March 1st, Mookie Betts. I don't know if you remember this article, but I remember reading it. And I was like, man, I wonder how this season is going to end for them. And anybody can catch this article. Just type in like Mookie Betts spring training expectation or whatever. But he was brand new to the team, new guy on the block, just came over from the Red Sox, and 27 years old, went through essentially one day of spring training and recognized the energy that the team showed up with, how they were executing drills, how they were going through practice. And essentially the next day walked into the locker room and declared like, hey, every single minute that we're on that field, I don't care if we're out here in Arizona with no fans, that, nobody's watching us, and pitchers, you're over there in the right field corner, just you better be treating it like it's game 7 of the World Series, because however we execute today on this field in spring training is how we're going to execute in the World Series. And he just said, like, if you read the article, everybody was like taken back by it, but also on board with it. And so it just shows, though, that leadership. And I wonder how their season would have ended if Mookie Betts didn't have that conversation and he didn't have the courage to step up and say exactly how he felt and hold everyone. And the article goes on to say, oh, by the way, every day through spring training, Mookie Betts showed up at the field at 5 a.m. every single day. Was the first one to the clubhouse.
That's leadership. Yeah. Sets a tone. And I think, most people can relate to having been a part of some type of winning team, right? Whether it's in your profession, whether it was in, athletics, whether it was grade school, right? Yeah. High school, college. I had an opportunity to be a part of a conference championship football team when I went to Ursinus. And we won the conference championship the year that I transferred in. And I went from a team that I think we were 2-11 my last year at the school I was attending prior. Not a winning mentality, no leadership, a lot of young guys goofing off. Coaching staff, it was a carousel. We had a lot of different guys coming in and leaving, and it was a hot mess. And a lot of those guys that were there left, whether it were players, whether it was coaching. It wasn't the right environment, right? People didn't hold each other accountable. Yep. I transferred to Ursinus College, and I actually transferred mid-school year. So we had spring ball coming up, and the rules were a little bit different for the conference that Ursinus played at. I was used to going out and being in spring ball in pads, right? At least upper. So we were wearing shoulder pads and helmets. There, we could only wear helmets. And it was instantaneous. I walked out on the field, and Ursinus hadn't had a really strong year the year prior, but there was a belief amongst the players that there were a couple of pieces that they had, right? And there was something special there. And there were a handful of players that held everybody on that team accountable, and it was instantaneous. It was the first play I walked on the field. The energy was different. And I think we all looked at each other and were like, listen, we got a couple of guys who transferred in, who have some very unique skill sets, who have something they can offer to the team, something they can contribute here. I think we've got something special. We were picked to finish 7th in the conference that following year and won a conference title.
That's awesome.
So everybody, you kind of feel it. It's a feeling thing. I'm sure it was the same thing Mookie Betts felt, coming out of Boston and walking on the field in LA or wherever they were doing their spring training. You get a couple of guys who really hold everybody else accountable, and that stays consistent. You'll start building a winning mentality.
Yeah, dude. It's the more and more I get into this, especially I think it's in any business, any sports, whatever. It's exactly what you said. It's leadership and energy. It's what I preach to our entire organization is anybody consumer facing, meaning that is going to have an interaction with a member, has to be a great leader. And number 2 has to have great energy. And energy isn't, you yelling at the top of your lungs, but there's an energy when you show up that, hey, I'm here, I'm present, I am where my feet are. And it's like, man, if you don't have those two things though, you're never going to reach the capability, because that lid is going to stay low. And so, you know, as I get into this, and this is all, you know, I've been around teams for forever, but where I'm really recognizing and able to, I've been the one in the team, right? Now I'm able to really take a 30,000 foot view and see how teams are acting and orchestrating, and what the leader looks like, and what energy that leader has, and what capacity does that leader have. And the ones that, honestly, the ones that are exceeding are the ones that are great leaders, and the ones that have great energy. And when you do that and you take full ownership, because here's the thing, is like when leaders take personal responsibility, this is another thing that is very evident, and say, everything is my fault, good or bad, everything is my fault, they lose no power, right? In franchising, oh, the franchisor didn't give me the graphic I needed. The franchisor didn't do this. The franchisor didn't do that. Well, guess what? You're losing all power and your ability to perform when you're placing blame elsewhere. And you're saying, hey, I can't control this. So it's not in my like, I don't control my destiny when it comes to this. You know, I think that's across the board in leadership. It's the same thing. You know, we want to be so quick to blame our teams. Well, guess what? We're the ones, even as frustrating as it is at times, we're the ones that have empowered those teams to be in place. And it's up to us. If they're not performing, either we're not setting the standard enough, we're not holding them accountable, we haven't set the right expectations, or they're the wrong people and we continue to allow them to stay on the bus.
Yeah. And I think one of the interesting, you know, things that I've picked up on from leaders that I've met throughout my life, it's how you communicate with your team. And it's okay to be upset with an outcome or a result, but I think the communication when something like that happens is so important to whether or not that outcome becomes a habit. And what I've heard from great leaders is it's okay to remind people that they can be better, right? And it's not, hey, that was terrible. Like we can never let that happen again. It's, hey, you can do better than that. I know you can do better than that, because people will oftentimes respond to that and say, damn, Adam's right. I can be better than that. You know, I woke up, my head was in a fog. I didn't have it today. I can be better. I think that communication following those types of things is where leaders really start to separate themselves. It was something that I tried to employ when I was in some different leadership positions, and it was not, hey, this went wrong. You know, obviously there's a conversation, how do we fix it? But it's most of the time it's just, hey, we can be better here. And I think that's important to keep in mind as well.
Yeah. And I mean, placing, you know, that was the video this morning, was essentially the idea that, hey, if we have a mission, or if we can be better, it's, you know, and that your leader saying that to you, Storm, it's, hey, Storm, how can we be better? So shifting the ownership of that outcome and the pathway back to you, because you're going to believe in that so much more if it was your idea. You know,
plant the seed.
Yeah. So, but it's everything, man. It's like the more and more I get into this, like I always knew it was important, but it never really like when you get down to the bones of any business. But again, I'm able to see things through a different lens, being a franchisor and essentially having my own corporate units and leading a franchisor team. Mm-hmm. I'm able to see it through so many different lenses, and the consistent lens is great energy, because you talk about the energy is feel, right? You talk about the feeling of the team. So if a team's talking crap about one another, if a team is coming up with like all of that plays into the energy field and how a team feels. Like if they're making excuses, if they're not holding each other accountable, if you know, they're dropping the ball, that's all an energy field, how they show up. Like for instance, I'm looking at what I'm looking for in great leaders within our organization. How do you show up on Zoom calls? Like, do you show up like you just rolled out of bed? Are you consistently distracted going on and off camera, or are you present? Are you where your feet are?
Yep.
Because that's how you're going to show up in a staff meeting. That's how you're going to show up when you're interacting with members. So it's little things like that it's just like, man, it's so consistent across the board as to why a team, be it sports, be it business, be it whatever, wins. So.
Agreed.
Awesome, man. Well, I love this
topic. We're at 15 minutes already, brother.
I know we could probably talk all day about it, but I guess I got to go to work. You probably do too. So
yeah, I've got a closing call with one of your new franchisees. So
nice.
I'm gonna go hop on that. We're gonna grow the brand today.
Love it. Sounds good, man. Later.
All right.